Are there topics in your life, we know there are, but we want you to focus upon them just briefly for a moment, where whenever they come up, it's just plain unsatisfying to you when they come up? Some subjects that you are just dissatisfied about. When Esther thinks about Jerry making his transition to the non-physical, she's just dissatisfied about that. She sugarcoats it as much as she can, and she listens to us talk about all the benefit of it. But the fact of it is, she walks the loop with more satisfaction with Jerry than she walks the loop without Jerry. There is some dissatisfaction that just happens. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to acknowledge when your moments are moments of satisfaction and when your moments are moments of dissatisfaction. And when there is a moment of dissatisfaction, you got to change the subject. You got to change the subject to a subject that is satisfying, because you can't take a dissatisfying experience and turn it into a satisfying experience. You just got to change the subject. And if you change the subject enough, it won't be active within you anymore, so it won't come up.
May I?
Yes, before you argue for your limitation, and it's all right. It's all right. We just want you to settle into that just for a moment, because we're not going to demand that you admit this, but it is helpful when you come to the awareness that in every moment I can be satisfied or dissatisfied. On every subject I can't be satisfied rather than dissatisfied, because some subjects, like children going to bed hungry, is just an unsatisfying thought. I just cannot focus upon that thought and feel satisfaction. And to ask myself to do that is asking something that I cannot do. You just have to acknowledge that. But this moment does not have to be an unsatisfying moment, because you do have some choice in what you focus upon. Unless, of course, momentum has taken it to a place where you feel like you have no choice, which you can work your way out of that through meditation and appreciation and so on. I've got a subject in my life, and whenever I focus upon it, I feel dissatisfaction. And well, I should. That was not a satisfying time of my life, but it was then, and this is now. And now I have this that I'm satisfied about, and this, and this, and oh, and that, and that. Memory is not about a storage cabinet or a file cabinet. It's about an active vibration. And so you will never outlive your capacity to remember something unwanted. But you can tune yourself to a vibrational frequency where it just doesn't come up, because your practiced vibration is different. Because of the nature of your being and your work and the way your mind works, there's a certain benefit in pathos. Knowing what you don't want helps you to know more clearly what you do want. And so part of you is keeping it active, because out of it comes some poignant things that people are relating to in their now experience. And there's an advantage to you and to them in some of that. Consider that the contrast in all things, such as without silence, there couldn't be an appreciation of sound. Without darkness, there couldn't be an appreciation of light. But let's even be more clear. Without silence, you wouldn't know what sound was. Without darkness, you wouldn't know what light is. In other words, it takes both ends of that spectrum in order to focus you into an experience. That in this satisfaction, there must be some dissatisfaction, but the extremes do not have to be so great. And what happens with a lot of people, especially if they are in an environment that they can't control for a good part of their early life, is that they live unwanted and it causes them to want, but then they can't have what they want because they're still living unwanted, which causes them to want more, but they still don't think they can have it because they're still living unwanted. And so there's this feeling of entrapment, because my circumstances won't let me be free enough to have what I want. But now the trap that you're feeling, because the circumstances are no longer there. Now the circumstances are just the circumstances of memory or the circumstances of vibration. And now you do have control. You always did, you just didn't know it. But that control doesn't come easy because the patterns of thought are still there. And that's a good thing, because each time you trip on or stumble across another pattern of that thought. Now, knowing what you now know, you recognize it. Only now you're doing what a lot of people are doing. You are recognizing the unwanted and beating up on yourself for being there. In other words, that's why we like step 5 so much. That is unsatisfying. I didn't want to live it. I shouldn't have lived it. I don't want to live it again. And there's nothing wrong with me for being able to discern wanted and unwanted. And that's unwanted. That's unwanted. But now I have choice now, and my choices will get easier and easier and easier as I choose more that is satisfying and more that is satisfying and more that is satisfying. And the thing that is wonderful that you're not ready to receive, almost nobody would be under these conditions, there's going to be a time in your life that that's going to feel more satisfying to you, because you'll know that this was produced out of that, and this is so fantastic. This was produced out of that, and this is so fantastic. So much of who I am was produced out of this, and this is so fantastic. But don't try to go back to the specifics of it and cover up an empty gas gauge with a happy face sticker, because when you're out of gas, you're out of gas, and that's all right. That's all right. And later you can go fill up your tank.